This is the continuation of the open letter to Mr. John Stewart and Mr. Tucker Carlson. This is the reality, that continuation of uh, Trump. The Trump system is basically saying an asshole bringing you a bringing such a message that 50% of the country are saying that yes, he can grab my pussy, get into the office, but implement these ideas. The ideas are basically, let's tend to the mast of the empire, the center of the empire. He wasn't able to execute it well. He had the right idea. The message is right, but execution means telling the people who are involved in the business of at the peripheries of the empire, telling them to fuck off. Find a solution for yourself. We don't have money to expand the peripheries anymore. Those gated communities can go back to nature and become open communities. This is, some people understand it. The what's the pull with the same thing? Marjorie Taylor Greene, she is on the same message that hey, my hometown is going to shit. If you don't mind, we want some education for these kids, so they don't, loot our stores. And we want some kind of a cultural education, some kind of a, you know, education, so they don't loot stores. Some kind of, respect for themselves. You see, when you loot stores, when you do all of this, you have lost your respect in yourself as a human being. You know, we're not asking for a bee colony, but a regular, human colony. You expect that these monkeys can live next to each other without looting each other or shooting at each other or killing each other. That comes from the educational system. It has not been invested in. The educational system has not been invested in. The result is that it's not producing well-rounded individuals. So they keep shooting at each other. You know, you say black on black crimes is up, Mrs. Greene. Okay, fine, it's up. Yeah, it is up. How much money are you spending on educating these folks? Let's be frank. You're not spending money on educating people. You're not serious money. In reality, if your defense budget is 10 times your education budget, what are you, valuing here? You're valuing to expansion and stability at the periphery of the empire at the expense of education at the center of the empire. This is Trump's message. He wasn't able to execute well, but you understand that this message is selling, not Trump. Trump is not selling with this condition, with all these, baggage from behind. Trump is not selling. But his message is, imagine how good his message is for, people who have been neglected for a very long time. That is selling. Who's been neglected? Everybody. It's sort of like, imagine 1950s, 1960s optimism, perspective on life, and optimism, and a vigor in your step, a bounce in your step. You look at these videos from the 1950s and 60s, you see there's a bounce in their step. That's when the empire pays a lot of attention to the center of itself. At the center, keeps up the mast. That's, the imperial tent. The mast has to be strong. You're not educating your people, you're sucking educated people out of the rest of the planet by, keeping them at war, because your war machine, the, military industrial complex is, you know, war is very profitable for somebody, but the money doesn't need to be there. Let the periphery go. Let the nature, in other words, stop trying to keep gated communities that is keeping a specific format for a country. They will form their own fucking format. And anybody who can't put up with that format, allow them to immigrate out. Believe me, a lot of people will conform with that format because it's their fucking format. You don't need to worry about what format people are governing themselves, what format other people are have adopted in terms of economics, what format they have adopted. You don't need to worry about that. They adopt a format that works for them in terms of governance, in terms of economy, in terms of religion, in terms of education. You worry about yourself. You worry about Mr. John Stewart. You worry about the mast of the empire. Without the mast, you're not an empire. If the mast buckles, you don't have peripheries to defend. This is what Trump's part of Trump message is selling. The guy was in, and the other message is a very, you know, the other message of the Democrats, which is not selling clearly. You got the grandpa, the lovable grandpa, and he still can't sell the message because the message is bloody. The message is we care about the periphery of the empire more. What are you going to do about it? We have the power. We're going to care about the periphery of the empire because there's more money in it for us and our friends. That's one reason. That's the main reason for it. Let's be frank. Again, trying to form a cube out of a bush you can do, but it's expensive. If they understand democracy, they will execute it. If they don't understand democracy, excuse me, they will continue with whatever shit that they do understand until they understand democracy. Maybe they never understand democracy. But you can't, teach a giraffe to sleep in a bed or sit behind a fucking desk. You can't do that. So you leave it alone so the giraffe does what the giraffe does and the hippo does what the hippo does. You don't try to make a cube out of a bush. All these wars at the periphery of the empire, Mr. John Stewart, is about trying to make a cube out of a bush. Let it naturally, if naturally it forms a cube, it will form a cube. If it comes natural to them. It's like you think the problem with Jamaica is Jamaicans. You see what I'm saying? That system, this is what they understand. We can go and inject them with a better understanding of what democracy is or what this is or what that is. His format, his brain works in a different way. So does the people in New Guinea, and so do Mexicans, and so do Colombians. That's they have a format that they think in. Arabs understand freedom? Are you fucking kidding me? Not the what if Arabs of Arabian Peninsula specifically. But it are you fucking kidding me? Oh, here's the life. It was good while it lasted. You cannot think of yourself as responsible made for making tubes out of bushes. You leave the bush the way it needs to be in order to maintain stability. Period. It's like you think if you put lions into a really tight pen, they will start behaving like bees. Imagine thinking yourself that if you put lions in a really closed environment, they will start behaving like bees do or ants do. No way, they won't. Why do you expect people of different races and ethnicities, cultures, histories to think the same way in terms of how we should be governed or how we should behave or how we should think about this matter or how we should think about that matter? It doesn't work like that. Dictating how they should be is expensive. Israel is expensive. That's they just passed a bill for the money to go to the periphery of the empire to keep a certain format that is more agreeable to you, more profitable for certain few, even fewer. I think the MAGA people in this case are, right. Start educating your people so not only you don't have to suck educated people from the rest of the world, but you can export educated people. Start doing that. That's the job of the mass of the empire, to expand, to build, expand, not destroy and expand, build and expand. If you build an American university in Cairo, 5 of them, 10 of them, 20 of them, in that way, with American staff, in that way you expand the empire. In the nice way. Okay, we are going to actually, give you 10 universities. That's when the money that collects at the center of the empire, that's when that money will, if it must to expand the empire, it can expand the empire in that way, by giving them things that they need, like like educated people. You educate enough of your people that you can export so many of them that not only suffice your needs, but you export the excess. Have you done that recently? No, you haven't. 1930s, 40s, you tried it and it was good. 50s, but then you started replacing all American education system all over the world, taking them out and putting military bases in. That was the Cold War. And then you continue it, and then you started some other war with terror, war on terror, with terror, on terror. Then you started the business with, okay, now it's back to pivot, great power rivalry. What, that was like, that was like recess, war in the Middle East with the 10 million people dead and 50, 60 million people, unwelled, run from their homes, and that was just a recess. Now back to the great power rivalry. Are you fucking kidding me? You're spending all the expenditures that needs to be expanded, all the money that needs to be spent to improve on the mast or strengthen the mast of the empire, is being spread to the peripheries continuously for the past 50 years in a format that doesn't make sense to anybody, in military format. Oh, no, no, we want a gated community there. You want a gated community in Israel to what? To work as a education, or work as a military camp? In Israel, you have a military fort. Pinkskins of the Anglo-Saxon variety have a military fort they call Israel. In West Asia, that they call Israel. Israeli, the Jewish people they're taking a bad name because they're holding the fort down for the Anglo-Saxons in West Asia. They're taking the blame because the Anglo-Saxon want a fort, a military fort in West Asia. Why do you need a military fort in West Asia? You're giving the right for the pinkskins over there, the Ashkenazi folks, to, have a protect. You're giving them the right or the privilege to protect your interests, to have a military fort, so from there you can coordinate attack on the natives in Syria and in Iraq, and coordinate from, the heart is Israel, and then from here we coordinate attacks on the natives from Iraq to Afghanistan to, you know this is what an expanding empire does. Creates a hub, a footprint, and then starts expanding from there into mainland. It doesn't look to you like that to you, Mr. John Stewart, Mr. Tucker Carlson. It doesn't look like that to you. It does from everybody else's perspective. You're trying to keep a gated community in West Asia, in East Asia, in the form of Taiwan. Gated community in Japan. You Japanese, they can't have good relationship with Chinese because the Japanese have to, abide by your be a cube that you like, that you recognize as order, not be the bush that, they naturally are. Yeah. in natural sense, you can play a good role in this, and that bring China and Japan to the negotiation table to make peace between them. Bring, South Korea and North Korea to the table and make peace between them. Something can be worked out. That's the job of, a good kind of the empire. But not, finance one side to fight the other side to death in Ukraine. The 1-2 generations are gone. Now we have to decrease the recruitment age in Ukraine to get a couple of more generations out of the way. Out of the way of whom? Here's the thing. Yes, in Ukraine there must be a pro-Russian government, just like you expect in Mexico that there would be a pro-American government. What part of this is hard to understand? Don't do to others what you don't like doing on yourself. Look at your neighbors as you look at yourself. The United States cannot have an asshole in Mexico because, they're the bigger brother. The United States is a bigger brother, so it doesn't expect the smaller brother, the shorter brother, to be an asshole. So why do you understand that this is a good idea for you, but it's not a good idea for Russia? Especially since the Russians have been on the receiving end of multiple wars during the past century. Multiple times the Russians were invaded from the West, the Europeans. Isn't that the case? The Russians didn't start World War II. The Russians didn't start World War One. Every time it's Anglo-Saxon. Not it's just what it is. The British and German, they're just, it is what it is. Unfortunately, they're good in many ways, but it's just. I mean, I've said this before. When I say the British and the French are, a special kind of assholes, is because they have the most variety of blood on their hand. I mean, no other empire before the French and the British had so many variety of blood on their hand. They have killed from Fiji to Brazil to, Uganda. That's how, Anglo-Saxons, how many variety of blood do Anglo-Saxons have on their hand. And you have these folks as the good guys. And that's the Security Council. The Anglo-Saxons in North America, the Anglo-Saxons in Europe, and China and Russia. It's the three other members of the Security Council are Anglo-Saxons, and then beside that they form their own Five Eyes and Three Eyes and Two Eyes, and you know they gift each other nuclear submarines. So the 30 million people in Australia should have nuclear submarines, but the 128 million people in Pakistan shouldn't have nuclear submarines. How do you figure, besides going by complexion? If you have my complexion, you're part of my tribe, I'm okay with that. If you have the other complexions, I don't care so much for it. Here's the thing, Mr. John Stewart. MAGA is selling not because the guy who's carrying the message is a great guy, but MAGA is selling because the message is people are buying the message. They have low quality of life at the heart of the empire. Some have given up on life, many have given up on life, you are using drugs. Just because they've given up on life of any kind of success in a sense. with mega yachts, you know, for certain people with connections, and you know, the standard of living of the rest going down, educational system nothing non-existing, and you know, because nobody's paying for it, health system had been a lot of troubles until the black guy came into power, and now manageable now, acceptable, especially with government subsidies. But this is not how it's supposed to be. And healthcare should be by itself cheap because you produce so much of it, so much drugs and so much, in your educational system you produce so many doctors and so many nurses and so much drugs that at acceptable prices that you wouldn't have issues. Mass is in trouble. And yeah, the MAGA people, that message is selling, and an asshole is selling it. Imagine how good this message would sell if somebody else comes out and says, we're going to stop funding the periphery of the empire, we're going to stop funding those gated communities at the periphery of the empire, because those gated communities are gated communities and they're expensive. We're going to stop funding those, and we're going to start educating our own people a lot more. Defense budget from tomorrow, defense budget is going to be the education budget. If you bring a good guy who says that tomorrow, that guy is going to win over Trump. But nobody's doing that. Trump is the only one. He's an asshole, but he's the only one who's bringing you this message. And it's got 50% buyers. 50% of the population are buying it. Because the message is good. Whether he executes it or not, who knows? But the message is selling, not Trump. See how good the message is. People understand the center of the empire, the mass is in trouble. Any expenditure that has to happen to strengthen the mass.